When we think of the Mongol Empire, we picture 1 million warriors on horseback, a force that conquered half the known world under Genghis Khan. It's an image of unstoppable military power, but that picture by itself doesn't tell even half the story. While we focus on the conquests, a different reality seems to escape our notice. The Mongols' true power wasn't forged in battle or found in the gleam of a sword. It was born in the brutal, unforgiving wilderness they called home, a landscape of extremes where scorching summers give way to winters so cold they can freeze a person solid. This isn't a story about conquering the world. It's about how the Mongols first conquered their own reality. For decades, the signs were there: a precarious lifestyle built on constant migration, a climate hostile to human settlement, and the ever-present threat of starvation. This is the story of the ingenious, often brutal, everyday techniques for food, shelter, and travel that created the foundation for their empire. Before they could conquer anyone, they had to conquer the steppe itself, and that daily battle for survival is what made them invincible. Section 1. The land. The crisis of survival that defined the Mongols didn't begin overnight. It was the result of a permanent environmental reality that shaped every aspect of their society. To understand them, you have to understand the Eurasian steppe, a vast, seemingly endless ocean of grass with few trees for shelter and even fewer places to hide. It's a land of devastating extremes. The summers can be scorching hot, and the winters are notoriously severe, with temperatures that can plunge to -40 degrees Fahrenheit. This climate dictates everything. In this world, traditional agriculture is impossible. The soil is poor, the growing season is short, and the weather is savagely unpredictable. You can't plant a field and expect to survive. This fact created the foundational challenge of Mongol life. How do you thrive in a land that seems actively hostile to human settlement? The solution wasn't to fight the environment, but to move with it. The Mongols became pastoral nomads, a culture built on perpetual motion. Their lives were dictated by the needs of their animals: sheep, goats, cattle, and most importantly, horses. They were in a constant state of migration, moving their camps multiple times a year in a relentless search for fresh pasture and water. This nomadic existence wasn't a choice, it was a brilliant strategic adaptation. When the grass in one valley was gone, they packed their entire lives onto carts and moved to the next, rotating between summer and winter pastures. This constant movement seems like a hardship, but it was the key to their survival. It made them resilient, adaptable, and completely self-sufficient. While settled civilizations built walls, the Mongols learned to carry their world with them. Their home wasn't a place on a map. It was their family, their animals, and the few things they could carry. But what sustains this system goes beyond just movement. This way of life bred a unique psychology. They were vulnerable. A sudden blizzard, known as a dude, could wipe out entire herds and spell disaster. But this didn't make them weak. It made them incredibly observant, masters of logistics, and deeply connected to the natural world out of brutal, pragmatic necessity. Before they ever organized an army, they had perfected the art of organizing a society in motion. Their entire culture was a mobile military camp long before Genghis Khan turned that model into a weapon. Section 2. The shelter. So you live a life of constant movement in a land of savage weather. The next problem is immediate. How do you build a home? It can't be permanent. It needs to be light enough to be transported, yet strong enough to withstand gale-force winds and insulate against deadly cold. The average family might move several times a year. A permanent dwelling is an anchor, and on the steppe, anchors get you killed. The Mongol solution is a masterpiece of nomadic engineering, a structure so perfect for its purpose that its basic design is still used today. The geri, also known by its Turkic name, the yurt. To call it a tent is to miss the point. A tent is flimsy. The geri is a home, a portable biosphere designed for survival. The structure is simple. It consists of a circular, collapsible wooden lattice wall, the khana. This accordion-like wall is light, but when expanded in a circle, it becomes incredibly rigid. The circular shape itself is a key feature. It offers the best resistance to the powerful steppe winds. The roof is formed by poles extending from the wall to a central compression ring, the tuno, which acts as both a chimney for the central fire and a window for light. But the secret to surviving a Mongolian winter is the gers covering, multiple layers of felt, or izgi, made from the wool of their own sheep. These thick layers of pressed wool are the primary insulation, trapping heat with incredible efficiency. A single stove, often fueled by dried animal dung, is all that's needed to heat the space. A final waterproof canvas cover protects the felt from rain and snow. The whole structure could be dismantled in under an hour, loaded onto carts and moved. The interior is a model of efficiency. The area opposite the door is for elders or guests. The west side was for the man's tools, the east for the woman's cooking supplies. Life was communal, lived in one circular space. In summer, the design is just as clever. The bottom of the canvas can be rolled up to allow breezes to circulate. The jur isn't just a shelter, it's an all-season survival machine. It's a solution so perfect that even today, a significant portion of Mongolia's population, especially in the districts surrounding the capital, still lives in them, a testament to their enduring practicality. Section 3. The Engine of Empire. Life on the steppe is defined by distance. This presents the next great problem: how do you conquer distance itself? For the Mongols, the answer was the Mongolian horse. The bond between a Mongol and their horse is almost spiritual. Children learned to ride before they could walk. But the genius of the Mongol cavalry wasn't just their legendary horsemanship, it was the horse itself. The Mongolian horse is not large or elegant. It's small, stocky, with a large head and short legs, but its appearance hides a creature of almost supernatural endurance. These horses live outdoors year-round, in temperatures that swing from over 100°F in summer to 40 below in winter. They have thick double coats and an innate ability to find food where other animals would starve, using their hooves to break through snow to find dried grass. This self-sufficiency was the Mongols' ultimate strategic advantage. Unlike the grain-fed war horses of European knights, which required massive supply chains, the Mongol horse foraged for itself. This gave Mongol armies a level of mobility that was unthinkable to their enemies. A single warrior on campaign would have a string of several horses, switching mounts to cover up to 80 miles in a single day, a pace that consistently bewildered their opponents. The horse was also a source of food and drink. Warriors preferred to ride mares to have a constant supply of milk, which was fermented into a nutritious beverage called airag. In desperation, a warrior could even drink a small amount of a horse's blood for sustenance without killing the animal. This relationship was the foundation of everything. It enabled their nomadic lifestyle, their hunting, and their military supremacy. The Mongol warrior on his hardy horse was the most effective mobile weapons system the world had ever seen. The horse was their legs, their food, and their spirit. Today, Mongolia is one of the only countries in the world where horses have historically outnumbered people, a living legacy of this profound connection. Section 4. The Fuel. A diet forged in scarcity. Living on the steppe means you cannot farm. This creates perhaps the most fundamental problem of all. What do you eat? How do you sustain a population in a land without agriculture? The Mongol solution was a diet as brutally pragmatic as the land itself, derived almost entirely from their herds: sheep, goats, cattle, camels, and horses. Their culinary system was divided by season into white foods for summer and brown foods for winter. Summer was the time of plenty. When animals were producing milk in abundance, the diet was dominated by dairy products processed for preservation. They made butter, yogurt, and hard, dried curds known as arul. These rock-hard nuggets of dried cheese were lightweight, durable, and packed with protein, the perfect travel food. A traveler could suck on a piece for hours, slowly rehydrating it for nutrients. The most famous white food was airag, fermented mare's milk, a tangy, slightly alcoholic staple. As winter approached, the diet shifted to brown foods. Meat. Animals unlikely to survive the cold were slaughtered. Nothing was wasted. Meat was typically boiled to conserve fuel, and the organs and marrow were consumed. But the real genius was in meat preservation. The solution was borts, air-dried meat. Strips of beef were hung inside the ger, where the dry, circulating air would dehydrate them over a month until they were as hard as wood. The protein of an entire cow could be dried into a package the size of a human fist. This was the ultimate field ration. A soldier could carry months' worth of sustenance in a small bag. Shaving pieces into hot water created a nourishing soup. This simple technology unshackled the Mongol army from supply lines. The diet was supplemented by hunting animals like marmots and deer. These hunts were also essential military training. Large, organized hunts called the nerg involved thousands of soldiers forming a vast circle and closing in, driving game into a central killing ground. This was not just a food drive, it was a complex military exercise that trained soldiers in the arts of encirclement and coordination, tactics they would later deploy against human armies. We've seen how they conquered their environment, their shelter, and their food supply. These factors combined created the ideal conditions for a mobile, self-sufficient society. But all of this was just the foundation. The question now is no longer how they survived, but who held this society together on the move. Section 5. The family, the unbreakable social fabric. In a world of constant motion and hardship, what holds a society together? For the Mongols, the answer was family. The traditional family was the bedrock of their society, the primary economic unit, and the first school where children learned the skills to survive. The problem of social organization in a nomadic culture is unique. The Mongol solution was a clearly defined yet surprisingly flexible division of labor. Men's work was focused outward, herding livestock, protecting them from wolves, hunting and fighting. They were responsible for making their weapons and saddles. Women, on the other hand, were the masters of the domestic sphere. They were the architects of nomadic life, responsible for setting up and dismantling the gerbil. They drove the carts during migrations. Inside the gerbil, the woman's authority was absolute. She was in charge of all food processing, cooked the meals, made the clothing, and raised the children. However, the line between their roles was not rigid. Survival demanded versatility. If a husband died, his wife had to be able to manage the herds. This shared competence made the family unit incredibly resilient. Mongol women, in fact, enjoyed a degree of influence that shocked contemporary observers from patriarchal societies. While men were the heads of the household, women were often consulted on important decisions. Widows could inherit property and even rule as regents. Children learned their roles through apprenticeship. Boys were out with their fathers, learning to ride and shoot. Girls worked with their mothers, mastering the complex tasks of the household. This hands-on education was relentless. By their teens, they were fully competent adults. This family structure was the building block for the entire Mongol military machine. The smallest unit in the army, the arban, was a group of 10 warriors, often from the same family or clan. They were bound by kinship and lifelong loyalty. The Mongol family wasn't just a family, it was a survival unit, a school, and the nucleus of a disciplined army. Section 6. The gear, survival in a saddlebag. The final problem is one of logistics. You are constantly on the move, far from any settlement. Everything you need to survive must be carried with you. You have only your horse and what you can strap to its back. The Mongol solution was a masterclass in minimalism. Every item a warrior carried was multi-purpose and lightweight. The personal kit of a Mongol soldier was a stripped-down, brutally efficient survival package. The primary weapon was the composite bow, a sophisticated piece of technology made from layers of wood, sinew, and horn. It was small enough to be used from horseback, yet incredibly powerful. For protection, most warriors wore armor made of hardened leather, which was waterproof and tough. Their helmets were typically conical steel or iron. But beyond the weapons, it was the everyday survival gear that highlights their genius. Every soldier carried a small toolkit with an axe, a file for sharpening arrowheads, and a rope. Crucially, every warrior carried a sewing kit. The ability to repair a torn coat was a life-saving skill. For sustenance, they carried their borts and a roll in waterproof bags made from an animal's stomach. Their clothing itself was gear. The traditional robe, the diale, was made of thick insulating wool or cotton, with long sleeves to protect the hands and a sash for back support during long hours in the saddle. The story of the Mongol Empire is usually told as a story of conquest, but that narrative by itself is incomplete. The victories on the battlefield were only possible because of a much deeper victory, the conquest of their own brutal reality. The Mongol genius was not primarily military, it was adaptive. Their nomadic lifestyle, born of necessity, gave them unparalleled mobility. Their portable homes, the gers, allowed them to live anywhere. Their relationship with the hardy Mongolian horse gave them the endurance to cross continents. Their preserved foods freed them from supply lines. These were not just cultural traditions, they were life-and-death technologies, the solutions to a series of brutal problems. The Mongol warrior was the product of 1,000 years of this relentless training. He was not just a soldier, he was a master survivor. Today, the empire is gone, but the echo of that reality remains. On the steppes of Mongolia, herders still live in gers and prize their horses. Yet their world is changing. Solar panels now adorn the sides of gers, and motorbikes are used alongside horses. It's a powerful reminder that the true Mongol legacy is not the memory of an empire, but a testament to human resilience and breathtaking ingenuity. Their strength wasn't born on the battlefield, it was born on the steppe, in the quiet, daily struggle for existence. This journey shows how much the past has to teach us. If you want to see more ancient skills put to the test, let us know in the comments which civilization's survival hacks we should explore next. And for more deep dives into the skills and gear that could make a difference, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next analysis.